Welcome back, Shalligators. Today, we're talking about Kim and Kanye and the further unfolding drama in their marriage. And I know, some of you are like, I hate Kim and Kanye. Okay, is it my fault? Is it my fault that they are just a constant fountain of relatable lessons? There's not a lot about Kim's life that's relatable, from her bizarre body proportions to her insane closet to all of these things. But it's like, that's why we talk about celebrities. Like, at the end of the day, they are just people, and they have the same core emotional issue, relationship dynamic problems that the rest of us have, just on such a grander scale because they're in the public eye. So even if you don't like Kim and Kanye, who cares? Do you love tortoises and hares? No. Were you able to get something out of that fable? I bet you were. So let's just try it. So what's been going on with them? We just did a video on them 2 days ago about, Kanye's obvious Twitter meltdown. He's in the middle of either a manic episode or a psychotic break. He's bipolar. Whatever's going on is not good with him. And he's absconded to Wyoming, dangerously close to my town in Montana. He's in Cody. He's just a hop, skip, and a jump. And bro, you stay out of this town. You stay out of my whole state. Stay out of my whole state. No, thank you. But Kim flew up to Cody to try to basically reason with him, and it went poorly. So yeah, the last time we talked about Kanye and his Twitter rant, right after I put that video up, he made an apology. Now, okay, either that was clearly someone hijacking his phone because it was way too coherent for him, or I think it was actually Justin Bieber and Hailey Baldwin's influence, because they are on some weird eat, pray, not weird, they're just on a road trip. I don't know why it's weird. It's cute, actually. So they're on a road trip, and they stopped in to see Kanye, and I think Justin sat him down and was like, bro, you don't treat your wife like this. And when Justin Bieber, priorly king of the fuckboys, says, you're not treating a woman well, ooh, you got some thinking to do. You've got some thinking to do. So I think that might have been a temporary pause button on Kanye's ranting, as influenced by the Biebers. But things clearly aren't going super well, because Kim was recently spotted in Cody sitting in the front seat of a car crying with Kanye, who was dressed like he just wandered out of the 1984 Olympics. I don't know what that outfit was, a windbreaker. I also don't think he should be driving. I don't want that man on the road out here. There's not a lot of people on the road, but there's a lot of big trucks. I just don't feel comfortable. And then she was spotted getting off a private jet back in LA. She flew home alone. And reports are saying that she was obviously out there trying to reason with him, trying to get him probably into some sort of hospital or psychiatric facility or some sort of medical intervention. And that's one thing he tweeted, Kim's out here trying to lock me up. It's oh, Kanye, oh my gosh. So this is what a source, aka the Kardashians, said to Us Magazine. Kim wanted to make this marriage work, and so is Kanye, but in recent months, it's looked way less likely. And that she has always tried to be supportive, but the way he's been acting and behaving in recent months has taken a toll on her and become a huge burden. We said in the last video about when to leave a broken man, how it comes down to, does he want to be unbroken? Does he? Kanye doesn't seem to want to be. I mean, when you have a mental illness and the drugs you have to take and the course of action, it is very intense. It is very intense. And there's a lot of reasons, good reasons why people who are suffering from those illnesses don't want to take their medicine. I get it. But most of us aren't dealing with people with problems that severe. Most of us are just dealing with douches, just the guy who won't commit or won't stop drinking or, whatever it is. And like I said, you have to ask yourself, does he even want to change? Whether that's his communication skills or his fidelity or whatever it might be. Because a lot of people get a very big payout from being sick. However you define sick, whether that is poor communication, whether that's he stays out too late, whether he is always around his friends and never actually wants to take you on a date, stuff like that. However you define that sickness in your relationship, we always assume people want to change, and a lot of times they don't. And then we go back to the victim narrative. But what we're going to talk about today is something a little different. I let you guys vote on this topic on my YouTube channel. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that whole thing. I let you guys vote on this topic on my YouTube channel. And I said, because I let you guys suggest topics about this, because I'm I don't know what to say about them at this point. You guys obviously, as usual, had amazing suggestions. And the big ones were how to move on from a relationship without feeling embarrassed, because that was what a lot of you guys said is probably keeping Kim in this situation. She doesn't want a third divorce, and how cruel the public is to her. I mean, everything she does is picked apart and ridiculed. And certainly a divorce is going to be up there. And this is arguably the biggest crisis she's ever faced. And she's faced a lot of crises. No matter if you love or hate her, you can't deny what she's achieved. And if you are trying to deny it and say she doesn't deserve it, go do it yourself then if it's so easy and it means so little. I don't think what she's done is insignificant. I think it's impressive as fuck. She turned a blowjob into $1 billion. I've only ever turned it into back problems. So I'm impressed by Kim. And I have a respect for her. So I think a lot of it is embarrassment that is keeping her there. And then another topic you guys suggested was how to get unstuck. And a lot of times, you know, the topics we suggest are like completely polar opposites, but sometimes they're very closely linked, actually. And so we're kind of going to talk a little bit about both. That's what we're going to do here today. So let's talk about how to move on from a relationship and leave the embarrassment of a failed relationship behind. One of my best friends, Alicia, the other day, she is like a walking, talking version of the book Why Men Love Bitches, which, by the way, is our new Shell Literature Book Club selection. Pick it up, buy it on Amazon. There's a link down there. And then head to the Shalligator Reddit page to chit chat about it. I'm going to be doing videos about it next week. I've already talked about it on the last 2 episodes of my podcast, Girl on Top. So head over there. I read the introduction and I read the first chapter just to give you guys like kind of to hook you into this book because it is literally life-changing. Anyone who has read this book says, I'm not the same person in the best way. And we mean bitch like Rihanna, not like Dina Lohan, you know, not like one of the housewives. No, we mean it a good way. But what was I saying? Oh, so my friend Alicia, she's like a walking, talking Why Men Love Bitches. And she's like, please do a video. And she just said this to me the other day. Please do a video on why people should not feel embarrassed or like a failure when their relationship ends. Because I see so many of my friends and so many women just being so guilt-ridden and so humiliated that they got divorced or that their boyfriend broke up with them or they broke up with their boyfriend or that their life changed in some way. And she made a good point. She's like, not everything is meant to last forever. Very few things in this world are. The earth has seasons, right? I've said this before. The earth has seasons and we have seasons. And we don't want to think that. We don't want to think that. Nope. If we have something, we have to have it forever. Otherwise, we're a failure. We can't get fired from a job. We can't break up with that toxic friend. We can't separate from our sister. We can't leave that stupid relationship. Or maybe the relationship wasn't stupid. It simply ran its course. That's okay. I remember when Cameron Diaz, throwing it back, broke up with Justin Timberlake, and they were together for I think a year, maybe like 2 years. And a reporter was like, so how do you feel about your failed relationship with Justin Timberlake? Just like a very callous question. She's like, I don't think it was a failed relationship. There was nothing failure-y about it at all. We didn't get married. We didn't die together at age 90. But why do we have to be considered a success? I think there's a lot of relationships, I'm paraphrasing here. I think there's a lot of relationships that are short but successful, and a lot of relationships that last forever that are wildly unsuccessful. And man, isn't that the truth? We all know, or as we get older, we will start to see the truth in what I'm about to say. Sorry, they're just, you know how they are. You know how they get. Just because something lasts a long time doesn't mean it's good. It's like, oh, Uncle Marty and Aunt Pam, they've been married for 35 years. They fucking hate each other. They hate each other. Or maybe they don't outright hate each other. Maybe they just don't really talk anymore. Maybe they don't have sex. Maybe they don't sleep in the same bedroom. Maybe they're like virtual strangers. I had an ex whose parents were like, they've made it. They've been together. They were together for like, now, I mean, it's probably 40 years they've been married. Craziness. And, let's say it was 35 years at the time when we were together or something. I have never seen a more miserable marriage. I was like, if you want our relationship to model that, you count me out. Like, I love your mom and dad and all, but like, I never, ever saw them interact just with each other. Never. One time I was like, oh my gosh, let me take a picture of you guys. You both look so cute. And it was like, they were two strangers. They were like, whoa. It was like American Gothic, just like pinned up against each other. I was like, have you guys met? You want to exchange phone numbers? How did you create these children? What? It was not what I would ever consider a successful relationship, ever. But on paper it was. They didn't get divorced. Everyone around them did. They stayed together through thick and thin. why is that always such a good thing? And we've talked about this before about, we go back and forth with like commitment and marriage and in sickness and health and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, on one hand, I do think that stick-to-itiveness, that grit, is truly what's necessary to create a family and a foundation. The concept of, we're working it out. You don't like sushi, I don't like country music. We're finding a middle ground. We're finding something on the radio. We're finding some place to eat. We're figuring out our finances. We're figuring out how to raise kids. We're figuring it out. But then you think, okay, well, if the writing's on the wall and you're both unhappy, or maybe you're not both unhappy. Maybe you're just unhappy. Maybe he's just unhappy. Why should you stay in something that isn't working for one person? Because let me tell you something. If something isn't working for one person, it's actually not working for either one of you. It's called a breakup because it's broken. And it's really hard for us to see that in the moment. The last video we did was on Vanessa Morgan and her blindside divorce from Michael Kopech, making stupid douchebag dumping a pregnant woman. I know we don't know the whole story, but still. And where is I going with this? Oh, the writing's on. Oh, the blindside thing. Okay, yeah. If you're blindsided, I mean, you want to think like, I don't understand. Everything was perfect. And how did this happen? And where did this come from? But when you get a little objectivity, you're like, okay. And that, when they say time heals everything, first of all, no, it doesn't. It is what you do with the time that matters. But that's what the root of that saying is that time gives you objectivity. And it allows you to look at this situation and be like, yeah, no. No, man. That was broken for him and it was broken for me too, but I didn't want to acknowledge it because fill in the blank. I was afraid to be alone. He was my financial dependence. I didn't want to deal with the problems in my actual life, on and on and on and on and on, right? And when we talk about doing those emotional autopsies, that's why, so that time can heal things. So what does this have to do about embarrassment? Because if you have left a relationship, it's because it was broken. And I also want you to ask yourself, who's your audience exactly? Who's your audience? Kim knows her audience. It's literally the entire world. So when she says she's going to be embarrassed, I mean, not say, but when she feels like she'd be embarrassed to leave that relationship, the fallout that she's picturing is very real. It doesn't just exist in paranoia and myth in her mind. She knows what those headlines are going to be. She knows what those memes are going to say. And she knows how that's going to hurt. And that sucks. But we don't have the problems of Kim Kardashian, do we? We don't have the good things. We don't have that closet. We don't have that body. But we also don't have to have her problems. When we say, oh my God, I'm going to be so embarrassed. I can't break up with this guy. I just posted about us on Instagram. I just posted and tagged it and I wrote live, laugh, love. And I did that. First of all, anyone who is for you no matter what. Your friends are not making fun of you. And if they are not your friends. And I know that sounds obtuse and obvious and pedantic, but it's true. And so, okay, if someone is making fun of me, I have to take them out of the friend category. I have to put them into the enemy category, right? I have a lot of enemies. People have a lot of opinions about me. I have no idea why. Because if you don't like me, you can simply not watch me. It's totally fine. You don't pay to be here, so get what you pay for. But I don't care like what those haters have to say about me. It's like, that sounds like a you problem. I'm like thriving and living my life and riding horses and cashing checks and breaking necks, honey. You don't like it? Okay, go outside, get some exercise. So once you move people into that enemy category, you will realize how little their opinion actually matters. And if it does still matter to you, okay, that's something to tackle. Why do I care what Lauren and Hannah and Katie have to say about my breakup? Why? Okay, if you get to the root of that why, it's projection. It's that when we feel embarrassed about something, we project it onto other people. Well, it's that Hannah and Katie and Lauren are going to judge me. What they are is the Greek chorus. Right? They're just this background noise of your actual feelings about the situation, right? When my marriage ended, I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. And I've talked before about how when it was obvious that that's how things were going to go, that we were, horrible. Everything I was afraid of happened. Everything I was afraid of happened. The financial fallout, obviously losing the love of my life, my best friend, my status as a wife, my idea of my future, and one huge element of that was I was so embarrassed because we were not married for very long. And I had painted this picture of us as this golden couple. And in so many ways we were. Like, it was, the happy moments we captured weren't forced, they weren't false. But there was obviously a lot going on behind the scenes, that even my best friends didn't know about. And I felt so embarrassed to now be imperfect in their eyes. And I remember my best friend Becca, when I finally said this, and I was like drunk at craft afternoon, and I finally was like, I'm so embarrassed that you guys don't see me as perfect anymore. And the words like had barely left my mouth, and Becca was like, literally none of us think you're perfect. And they're like, yeah, like, not at all. Oh my God. Oh, it still makes me laugh so hard I cry. Or just cry in general. But it was such a jarring, true thing. It was, you wouldn't care how much people, or you wouldn't care what people thought about you if you knew how seldom they did. It was the sister sentiment to that, because I was like, oh yeah, they actually know me. And they certainly know I'm not perfect. Where was I getting that idea? Where was I getting that idea? Where was I getting that pressure on myself that I have to be perfect? Well, part of it's social media. I mean, let's not lie. We craft a perfect persona. No one's posting that weird emo shit. You should not. If you were going to, don't do it. We talked about subtweeting on my Instagram the other day. Don't do it. Don't do it. Mm-mm. But that's part of us. It boxes us into this perfect idea. But when we're real, that's when people connect to us. That's what I do on this channel. I don't present myself to be perfect. I'm like, and then this and then that, but I think you guys respond to my authenticity and my realness and my imperfection, like I know what I'm talking about, but I'm in the trenches enough to like be there with you in so many of these situations and dating and friendship and all this stuff. And that's how our friends are. That's like this on the macro, what I do, in this big sort of internet sphere. But with everyone on the micro, it's like that too. Who wants to be friends with the perfect girl? Oh, she's so perfect. Caitlin, perfect. Who wants to be friends with that person? Friends with what? It's not our flaws that bind us, but like my friend's coming over tonight, and I'm like, do you want to have a movie night and complain? He's like, yes, I do. Hi, Jacob. I love you. I can't wait to see you. But like, that's what we do. We get together, we complain, we talk about our flaws, we talk about our insecurities, we talk about what's wrong. Like, no one's like, no, everything's perfect. It's so perfect. Who the fuck wants that chick at brunch? Not me. So when we're like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing, everyone's going to be talking about me again, you wouldn't care what they thought if you knew how seldom they did. Ooh, I know. But that should be so relieving. It should be like, you should feel a bit chuffed. That's not the right word. It's just chagrined, perhaps, chagrined, but relieved. It's like, oh, the burden's off of me. So analyze like who you think is going to be embarrassed. And actually, is that your own insecurities, or not even insecurities, truths about your relationship being cast onto someone else? Oh my God, they're going to judge me for XYZ. What? Fill that blank in. Literally write it down. That's what was wrong in your relationship. That's what was inauthentic in your relationship. That's what you were denying in order to keep him. And sometimes it isn't, I'm so embarrassed that we're breaking up. Sometimes it's, I'm so embarrassed we're back together. Okay. Yep. I almost got back together with an ex before I moved to Montana. And I was not looking forward to telling people that, because I knew their arguments. I knew what their arguments were going to be against it, because their arguments were going to be true. They were going to be the truths that I did not want to hear, that I didn't want to accept, that I didn't want to face, that I didn't want to acknowledge, that I didn't want to admit, because if I acknowledged them, then I had a hand in my own destruction. I was my own co-conspirator. I was the architect of my own misfortune now, because I could no longer plead ignorance, could I? No. I can be like, well, things are going to go bad because of this issue and that issue and this issue, which are definitely not resolved. I didn't want to hear anyone else say that to me, because then I had to hear it. Seeing is believing. And I didn't want to see, and I did not want to believe. I made a different choice, but partly because that idea of being embarrassed, I dug into it. Because the reaction is, I'm like a feisty, surprise. My reaction was gonna be like, well, fuck everyone. It's me against the world. Me and him against the world. Meh. This Bonnie and Clyde ridiculous mentality. And I was like, no, I don't want it to be me and him against the world. I want it to be me and him and all my friends and all my family and people who love us and all my internet chickadees. And I want people to be proud of my decisions. And I couldn't make those two things work. I couldn't make that choice and have that response and expect that response from people who knew me and loved me. So I didn't make that choice. And it sucked and it was hard. But it's all about getting better at making these choices and about understanding why you're making choices and being justified in it. If you knew you left a toxic relationship, a bad guy, or not even a bad guy, just something you weren't into anymore. I get so many messages from you guys like, my boyfriend's perfect. He loves me, but we've been together too long. I want to experience other things. He doesn't have much ambition. I'm just over it. I'm not attracted to him. I have a crush on a coworker. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I can't leave. Honey, he doesn't have to be a monster to not be a god. He doesn't have to be an F to not be an A. There's a lot of things in between. And you're not a C+ student in any way. Probably not academically, and sure as shit not romantically. I won't allow it. I'm the professor. I'm Professor Shallon. And I give you an F if you try to act like a C when you're really an A. This metaphor is getting away from me, but you know what I mean. You're allowed to say, this just isn't enough for me. And when you're okay with that decision, you don't feel an ounce of embarrassment because you know that this was the right move. And if anyone comes up to you and they're like, oh, wow, heard you and Nick broke up. Did you just post about him? You'd be like, excuse me, Patricia. Why don't you sit the fuck down? Because I know what I'm doing with my life. What are you doing with yours? Why don't you have 2 eyebrows? Go get threaded. You will be able to shut down any sort of slights against you because you're going to understand where you're coming from. Life is too short to feel like this. It honestly is. We can't be stuck by guilt. And embarrassment is a sister to guilt. It's sort of a sistery, cousin-y kind of thing because they both do the same thing. They keep us stuck. So let's talk about how to get unstuck, right? And we can do other videos on getting unstuck in general, getting unstuck in your career, getting unstuck in your friendships, physically, but just in this context about being embarrassed and getting stuck, that one begats the other. And then guilt kicks in because what happens if you stay with someone for the wrong reasons? You get really resentful, you get mean, and then you actually do have something to feel bad about. You've had the ick for 5 months and you're lashing out and snapping at him when he tries to touch you with those fingers. You're just like, ugh, get away from me. And then you do feel guilty. Then you can't leave. Then you've gotten in deeper in this relationship. Maybe you moved in together or you're going on a road trip. You planned something. His parents' anniversary were coming. What are you going to do to get out of this guilt spiral? Which started with an embarrassment spiral. Again, life is too short for this shit. You have nothing to feel guilty about for saying, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. I'm sorry you're dealing with a drinking problem. I'm sorry you can't stay faithful to me. I'm sorry I just don't want to touch you with those fingers or my fingers, anybody's fingers anymore. Get out and get out cleanly, right? Get out and know that something better is on the way. Because like I said, it's called a breakup because it is broken. And he might not see that right away, but he might, and he might be doing things to keep you there, like Kanye's doing to Kim. But it doesn't matter. it doesn't matter. This doesn't have to be a unanimous decision. For you to look at a situation and be like, this simply doesn't work for me anymore. And how would that ever be something you should feel embarrassed about? How would someone saying, I'm unhappy and I'm doing something to make myself happy? Who on earth has the right to make you feel embarrassed about that? Even if you got dumped, even if you got fired from that job, okay, clearly, you know what you say? You know what? Yeah, I can't feel the truth of it right now, but I can intellectually know the truth that that relationship was broken. If it was broken for him, it was broken for me. And like I said, I'm still in it. I'm still super sad. I still miss him. But I understand, because Shallon Lester tells me so, that time will give me the objectivity to see what was broken. And I know I'm just not there yet. That's okay. So what do I have to feel embarrassed about? That now I'm not trapped in a relationship that wasn't working? I saw a meme the other day. I think Shelby tweeted this. Hi, the Rose Queen. Hi. I think you tweeted or Instagrammed on your story, like, you're so lucky to be single. Some people are alone in their relationship and they don't even know it. I was like, oh, that is so true. We got to know. We got to walk in the light of the truth. So if we get dumped out of nowhere, if life throws us a curveball, if we get fired, thank you for shoving me into the light. Thank you. And you know what the light does? It hurts. When you wake up in the morning, you're like Dracula. It's like, this is awful. But light sanitizes. Sunlight kills germs, right? It does in our soul too. When we can walk in the light of that truth and be like, you know what? Yeah, I got fired from that job that I poured my heart and my soul into, but clearly they didn't appreciate me. So wow, thank you, God. Thank you for this blessing of being released into the world so that now I can find a job that does appreciate me. Now I can find a boyfriend who does love me, who does appreciate me back, who does want to plug in and do things. Because it was broken, I just didn't see it yet. I've broken a lot of bones, a lot, like 5. And sometimes you don't know a bone is broken, right? You have to walk around on it for a little bit and you're like, this hurts, but it's fine. It's fine. I can keep going. We do that emotionally too, until something happens where the pain gets too bad or something else happens and we're like, oh my God, I've been walking around on something broken. I've been using this broken wrist for a week and a half and just shrugging it off and telling myself I was crazy for feeling the pain I felt. I was just being dramatic. No. Turns out there was a crack and I didn't know it yet. But now I do. And now that I know, I'm starting to heal. And that's how you have to think of whatever it is you're going through that's causing you embarrassment and therefore causing you to stay stuck either in the past or in the current that you don't feel like you can get out of. You are allowed to heal. And you might be in that healing process. And there is nothing embarrassing about someone who's healing. Nothing. I want to know what you guys have to say about Kim and Ye. Do you think she's going to file for divorce? I think she might. I think her coming back to LA alone was a very bad sign. You know, and we were saying, this is the hard part with someone who's dealing with a mental illness. Or anything. Dealing with not a mental illness, dealing with shotgunning too many White Claws before they go to work in the morning. You can't make someone do anything. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. And believe me, I've experienced that analogy in real life a lot lately. Horses are incredibly stubborn. Why don't you want to go to the water and drink? Why don't you want to drink the water? We've been on the trail for 4 hours. You're not thirsty? Don't lie to me, apples. It's crazy. For more, click like and subscribe. And also, if you guys want a video shout out, head to Cameo and find me there. And if you want a question answered, head to my website, shallonlester.com. And be sure to follow me on Instagram where you can vote on the next topic. Mwah!